Hi everyone, welcome again to another creative aging program. Just want to let you know that because it's Mother's Day this week, our normally scheduled kits have been a little delayed, so we'll kind of push everything back a week and get started on kit stuff from Collective next week. And then hopefully I'll be able to hand you guys all 3 of your May kits in one package. But because we don't have kits today, lucky us, we get to do another fun watercolor painting with Sharon program. And again, because it's spring and it's May and the flowers are blooming and it's so pretty, we're gonna continue our flower theme that we sort of started last week and do some flower painting. It's going to be pretty simple. I think that you'll be able to follow along with your paints and brushes at home. And I'm going to turn this into a card for my mom because I really like that lady. Hi, Mom. All right, here we go. Let's get started. So I am not going to do flood watercolors today. I'm going to do wet watercolors here, and I kind of like the setup because you can actually see me mixing the colors on my palette this time around. But we're not going to do a background or anything. We're kind of going to do like a Audubon type flower arrangement right here in the center of my card. So I'm actually, because I'm going to turn this into a card, I have it measured off, and I'm only going to use right here 6 inches of this as my painting area, because the other 6 inches I'm going to fold. And you'll notice I didn't tape this one either, and that is because this is Bristol board. This is not watercolor paper, it is Bristol board. It is going to react a little bit differently to the watercolor paint than watercolor paper. And because I'm not painting flood watercolors, I really like using Bristol board. All right, so let's get started. I have my medium-sized brush here, and I'm gonna get it really wet in my water up here in the corner. And then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna start with green. So I'm gonna get, this is like, on my palette at least, it's kind of a mossier green. Got a little bit of kind of the yellow mustard brown end of the spectrum there. Yeah, that is not gonna be a good spot to mix it. Let's try here. And so I'm gonna get a bunch of this up, and you're gonna laugh, but the flower I'm gonna paint today for my first flower, if we have time I'll do more flowers. I'm gonna do a dandelion. And you're like, well, Sharon, why the heck are you doing a dandelion? And the reason is because I love dandelions. They're one of the first flowers that come out in the spring. They're really great food for the bees. Maybe I'll put a bee on my painting. But see there, I've got a nice little puddle. And I'm actually gonna go into just a smidge of brown, which I think is gonna be off the camera, but I have some dark brown right here, and I'm gonna put a little bit of dark brown in my green just to kind of make it a little dull. All right, here we go. Let's get started. So I want to paint a dandelion. Dandelion leaves come out of just the ground, right at root level. And they kind of come out in all sorts of crazy directions. So what I'm going to do is paint the stems in first. And don't forget, they kind of come out the front too. All right, so there's the stems of my dandelion. Now the leaves of your dandelion, they kind of are zigzaggy, right? Like if you look at a dandelion, they have zigzaggy leaves, kind of like have points like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make points in my leaves. Do you see how I'm doing that? Going back and forth, and then they get big right there towards the base. I'll do the next one like that. Big towards the base. And so that's 2 leaves of my dandelion, so I'll go back and get more color and we'll get started on another leaf or 2. All right. And the Bristol board, because it is not watercolor paper, it just soaks the paint right up, and it actually allows you to kind of paint over some parts where you maybe think you didn't put enough paint far quicker than it would on watercolor paper, which is why it's nice for something like this, because we're not doing flood watercolors this time around. highly, highly recommend Bristol board. You can get it at Hobby Lobby or any fine art store, but I mean, we have access in Pueblo here to Hobby Lobby. And it's not very expensive. You can get it in a bunch of different sizes. The Bristol board I have here at the library is actually really big, so I had to cut this down a little bit to a size that I thought was manageable for a card. Hopefully my mom likes it. I give her so much art over the years. Hopefully moms like art. I know I would like art if my kiddo gave me art. And we'll finish these leaves up. And the last one here. Back and forth and then wide at the base. All right, so there is the leaves of our dandelion, just like that. Nice and simple, super quick and easy. So to make the stalk of our flower, we're going to add a little bit more brown to the brown and green mixture that we've already got going over here. So add a little bit more brown to it. So it's more brown than green, but not super duper dark. Dark wouldn't be right. I'm just gonna draw the stem. You can have it pointing in either direction, but I'm gonna have mine pointing this way. Doop, just like that. There's our stem to our dandelion, and it's gonna blend in a little bit with the kind of wetness here. We can go back and touch that up later. And make this maybe a little bit smoother. There, that looks good to me. All right, so now we're going to mix the color for the actual head of the dandelion, which is gonna go right there. And so I'm gonna have my dandelion, at least this one. Maybe I'll make another stalk afterwards and we'll have one that is a head dandelion that we could blue. But this one's gonna be a yellow one, so I'm gonna make a yellow color right here with one of my yellows. I'm using the darkest yellow I have, really, pure yellow, but I'm gonna mix it. So, because dandelions are pretty bright. They're not as bright as you think they are. I think that our eyes, when we're out in the sunlight, we see things very brightly, but if we were to put this bright yellow directly on the canvas, I think we'd be relatively disappointed because it wouldn't look right. So, at least that's my opinion. I tried it, it didn't look right. So then I'm gonna use this kind of, I don't know, it's sort of a yellow, it's kind of a tan. I'm going to just go directly onto it, and I'm going to wipe off all this extra yellow, so don't even worry. I tend to do a lot of mixing on my blocks, paint. I don't really know why, it's just something I do. Make my little puddle over here of a slightly duller color yellow. And then, last but not least, I'm going to take a little bit more brown. This is a different brown, sort of lighter brown. Add just the barest smidge of that brown to that color. All right, I think that's just about right. So now we're gonna start the dandelion. And so think about an imaginary circle right there at the tip. And we're going to zigzag our brush in and out of that imaginary circle on the tip of the dandelion. Just like that. Ta-da! Dandelion. All right, so that is kind of literally how we paint that dandelion. It's kind of it. The end. It's a really simple guy. But I think I want 2 stems on my dandelion. So I'm gonna go ahead, rinse my brush off here. Go back into that dark greeny brown color and have a stem kind of coming out this way. Like that. And then this one at the very tip, I'm going to kind of just draw a little circle like that. So now I'm gonna go into gray, and I have a gray here. It's a pretty dark gray, but I have a gray. And I'm gonna go right on into that and mix up myself a little gray color. I'm gonna use this brush to do the mixing for that gray, but I'm not actually gonna use this brush to paint. I'm gonna use my tiny brush. For most of this, you could use just the one brush, because it gives you a nice point. But for this, because I want it to be fine, I'm gonna use my tiny brush, which is, you know, the little fellow here. And I'm gonna start. Now this is gonna bleed a little bit because it's still wet there, just a little wet. And go in here. And the thing with dandelions, of course, is that they go all around the stalk. And if you don't do that, it's just not gonna look right. And you want to put some through the stalk. They're going to be a little darker. Just kind of dust them in there. There you go, just like that. And then, because they have the little umbrellas, very lightly make little V's at the tip. Just some of them. You don't even have to do all of them, and it'll look right. It'll look like the little umbrellas. Just like that. Ta-da! All right, so we're gonna let this dry just a smidge, and because I said that dandelions, of course, are bee food, I'm gonna put a little bee, and then I'm gonna call our painting finished. I'll sign my name, and my mom will get it for her Mother's Day card. While I'm messing with that, I wanna take some of the paint off of this. So I just used a dry brush and moved those guys in there. Squiggled the lines a little bit just to blend it in nicely. There, I'm happy with that. All right, make a bee. So I still have some of this yellow here left over. Oh, did I drip on my painting? I don't want to do that. And I'm going to make myself, this is not going to be a very anatomically correct bee. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And make myself a little body. Little body. Just an oval body. Okay. Then I'm going to use my black, which is right here, and just get it on my brush. Make a little head. Some stripes. Like I said, it's not a very anatomically correct bee. That's okay. There we go. Give them a little stinger. Tink. All right. Oh, antenna. How could I have forgotten? Bees need their antennae. There we go. All right. That's my card to my mom. When it dries, I will probably calligraphy in some Happy Mother's Day sentiment, but that's literally it. I'm gonna sign it so she knows it was me. And that's that. Thanks for tuning in to learn how to do some painting with me today. Next week we'll have our regularly scheduled kits. And until I get to see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep making. Bye.